That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, this is going to be a very fun video because in this video, not only do I get to come out and show y'all what a $1,000 draft looks like, but at the same time, I get to come out and say, I told y'all so, I told y'all so, I told y'all so. I am already chalking this up as a massive W for us. I am saying that we are the favorite to win this league. Now, we got so much hate on this draft during the live stream and in the comment section after. So, of course, let me know what y'all are thinking about this draft now that we are a month away from it. Let me know if anybody has some apologies, if anybody wants to tell me that I'm still an idiot and this is still a bad draft. But yeah, I'm going to be very excited to break this down. And guys, if y'all have not heard already, we are going to be live streaming every single night from here on until the end of the season. And what we are going to be doing until the beginning of the season is live streaming every single night fantasy football drafts that you can get in on Underdog Fantasy. Just make sure you go to the description of the video, join Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK. What that does for you is that gives you a free $25 to play with when you deposit $10. And if you deposit $10 with promo code FLOCK, I send you the 2021 draft guide as long as you shoot me a DM through Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Patreon, wherever you shoot me that DM. Just say, hey, Mason, I signed up. Here's the email I signed up with, and then I'll send you that draft guide. So please, guys, make sure you take advantage of this offer because honestly, it should not even be an offer. And so many people have signed up already, and I'm looking forward to drafting with y'all. And yeah, that's it. Let's get this draft up and let's start looking at it. And okay, so we pulled the 106 in this draft, right? So a big thing about this format is we really need to focus in on the starting lineup. So this is going to be a 2021 redraft league where you start one quarterback, you start two running backs, you start three wide receivers, you start one tight end, and you have three flex spots. So we looked at that format and we went, okay, so if we get a running back falling to us at the 106 that we like, we are going to take them. If we get a Saquon Barkley falling to us, I'm taking Saquon Barkley so we can hammer in wide receivers after. Well, we see the first 5 picks in this draft go Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley. And when we're sitting at that point, I go, okay, so it's pretty much between Tyreek Hill or Ezekiel Elliott for me here. And I think based on the fact that we can start 6 wide receivers on a week-to-week basis, and we should probably plan on starting 6 wide receivers on a week-to-week basis, given it's a PPR format, Tyreek Hill is going to be our selection. So we took Tyreek Hill at the 106, planning on going with the running back in the second round. And this is, I think, what we did that makes this draft board look so good right about now. Because we get to the middle of the second round and we go through and we finish out the first. You have a lot more running backs going. The only other wide receiver that goes in the first round is Stephon Diggs. At the beginning of the second, it starts to get a little bit more balanced. You have some wide receivers like a DeAndre Hopkins, a DK Metcalf, and A.J. Brown. Also, Cam Akers is going. RIP Cam Akers. Oh my God. Let's not even get into that. But also then before we are on the clock, I'm looking at 3 players that I think are going to fall back to us in Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, or Davante Adams. I don't know who's falling back, but I know out of those 3 players, whoever falls, I am taking one of them. So it ended up being where both teams in front of us decided to go running back. They went Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon, and we were on the clock going, well, you know what? Yes, we desperately need a running back here after taking Tyreek Hill in the first, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just go Davante Adams because Davante Adams has more upside than any other player you're ever going to find in the second round. And of course, at this point, now you are never going to see Davante Adams going in the second round. If you pull up our draft guide or our rankings are on Patreon. Our draft guide also has our rankings in them. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog to get our draft guide, or you can go to Patreon, but I definitely recommend going the Underdog way because you get a free $25, and at the same time, I mean, you get to hop in drafts with us. But regardless, you're never going to see Davante Adams in the second round. We have him ranked as our 4th player overall. I mean, we're going to be extremely aggressive on Davante Adams. In that last year, he put up the best wide receiver fantasy season in the past 20 seasons if you take out the game that he left early due to injury. So taking Davante Adams there to pair with Tyreek Hill as our wide receiver 2 was a fantastic start. And then the problem was trying to figure out where we were going to go in the 3rd round. I thought that we were not going to have a running back that we liked falling back to us. And it actually ends up that there was a wide receiver and a tight end run going after we take Adams. You got Michael Thomas. This is before the injury. Then you have Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Justin Jefferson, all at the wide receiver position. You also have Darren Waller and George Kittle at tight end. And that leaves us Deandre Swift in a PPR format as our running back one. And with Deandre Swift, I understand, guys, Jamal Williams is going to be getting touches. Of course, Jamal Williams is going to be getting touches after that contract. But you're drafting Deandre Swift so we can be the next Aaron Jones, so we can be the next Alvin Kamara. This is a running back that's going to get every target out of the backfield, and at the same time, he can get usage in the red zone. So we're taking Deandre Swift in the 3rd round. Love that value as our running back one. And from here, I mean, we just knew we were hammering in wide receiver value given the settings. So in the 4th, we get Robert Woods at the 407. Robert Woods is my wide receiver 11 right now for 2021 fantasy football. Then we get T. Higgins at the 506. Good luck getting T. Higgins at the 506 now. I mean, you're seeing that in this draft, we crushed players that are all going higher in drafts now than when we selected them. Now, our 6th round pick, I will admit, this is where we made a bad decision. And we made this bad decision and admitted it as the draft happened. I reluctantly decided to take Kyler Murray at the 607. And why I say I reluctantly decided to do so is at this point, the only running back on our roster was Deandre Swift. We definitely had a hole at running back too. And we had an easy answer if we wanted to go in that direction. We could have taken Myles Gaskin. And we decided to get the elite quarterback. With hindsight being 2020, this was a massive mistake because we go later on in the draft and some other quarterbacks that we love for this upcoming season. I mean, Trey Lance at the 1405 goes off the board. You have Joe Burrow at the 1311. You have Aaron Rodgers at the 1310. Of course, if I knew we were going to have access to those quarterbacks in the 13th, 14th rounds, we would have decided to go Myles Gaskin in the 6th instead of Kyler Murray. That was our main mistake in this draft. I will admit that. I mean, there's really no hiding that mistake that we made by taking the elite quarterback. And we've made that mistake in so many drafts already this season, and I just won't learn my lesson, apparently. And now our next pick ended up being in the 7th round, and I really didn't like this one, to be completely honest. So y'all know that I am not a fan of this Denver Broncos situation at all, and you usually see Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton going significantly higher than this in drafts. Usually they're around the wide receivers. They're above Laviska Shenault. They're around Odell Beckham Jr., Chase Claypool, DJ Chark, Devonta Smith, Adam Thielen. That's where you're seeing these Denver wide receivers go. Usually at that price, I am never considering them. I wouldn't touch them with the 10-foot pole. But we end up having Jerry Jeudy fall to us at the 706. And running back during that time, I mean, we could have gone Trey Sermon. We could have gone Michael Carter. But historically, running backs in that range haven't been the best bets. So when we don't get Chase Edmonds falling back to us, which is what we thought we were going to get, which is why I even like the Kyler Murray pick a little bit more, we ended up going Jerry Jeudy at the 706. Looking back at it, I don't think that's a mistake because the running backs we passed up on weren't the same kind of player as a Myles Gaskin. I think that at that point, we really had to go with the best player available on the board, which sadly was Jerry Jeudy, not a wide receiver that I'm getting excited about drafting at all this season. Now at the 807, we end up getting Will Fuller. Now, I know what y'all are saying. Mason, this is your wide receiver 6. You only have one running back. Keep in mind, guys, this league, you start 3 wide receivers. You start 3 flexes. It's incredibly important to go through and make sure you understand your format while you're drafting. So while, yes, we didn't have our running back 2, at the same time, we didn't have our flex number 3. We were still missing a starting lineup spot one way or another. So why am I going to go reach on a position just because people in the live chat tell me it's slightly more important? Whereas we can take a player that's going to have significantly more points per game. He's going to contribute to our flex on a week-to-week basis. He's going to raise the ceiling of this overall team. So we ended up taking Will Fuller at the 807. And then in the 9th, this is another example of a mistake that we made. So in the 9th, we see that the tier of wide receivers are definitely just completely drying up. The last guy that's available that's in that tier is going to be Hollywood Brown. And I'm sitting here with 6 wide receivers. We just filled out our 3 wide receiver slots. We just filled out our 3 flex spots. And I went, you know what? Yes, we definitely need a running back too. indefinitely, I would love to get AJ Dillon. And of course, I'm not saying this on the live stream because I'm not wanting to say this on the live stream because everybody a part of this draft are supporters of the channel over there on Patreon. So I'm sure that they were watching the stream as we were drafting. And I was saying, okay, in my mind, we want AJ Dillon, but I think we can take Hollywood Brown here as our wide receiver 7, not have to draft another wide receiver the entire draft, load up on a ton of just dart throw running backs, trying to piece together running back 2 production. And I thought what would happen if we decided to go Hollywood Brown there as our wide receiver 7 is I thought based on us soaking up so much of that wide receiver value that behind us, teams were going to have to kind of go out there and reach for players, just say like an Amon-Ra St. Brown a few rounds early. And that's the mistake that we made. We tried to just completely alter the draft board at a position where it's way too deep to try to do so. So another mistake we made was Hollywood Brown at the 906 as our wide receiver 7 when we could have gotten AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon, looking back on it, would have easily been the selection, but it is what it is. You live and you learn. And at the 1007, we get a running back that we definitely love this year in Kenyan Drake. We've talked about Kenyan Drake a lot on this channel. And I want to remind everyone, I'm not a fan of Kenyan Drake. I mean, this is a player that I've really hated in fantasy over the past 2 years now. But all of a sudden, he goes to Las Vegas. He gets a great deal. He gets $11 million guaranteed, guys. I mean, I don't think you realize what $11 million guaranteed at the running back position means. That means that this running back by no means isn't someone that's going to come in and just be a backup type player. This running back is someone that's going to come in and he is going to have a solidified role on a game-to-game basis to the point where I'm comfortable playing Kenyan Drake as our running back too if we need to. No, we're not expecting him to be a top 24 running back in points per game without a Josh Jacobs injury. He'll probably be in the running back 25 to 29 range. And we're kind of fine with that at that point because in this draft, we're saying, hey, I have the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I have the wide receiver 2 in fantasy. I'm going to crush you at every wide receiver and flex spot. I'm going to be okay at my running back 1. I'm going to crush you at quarterback. So if we're a little weak on running back 2, I'm fine with it. There are enough starting lineup spots where I can crush you everywhere else, and I'll just punt that one. Well, with Kenyan Drake, I think it fits because at the same time, if something were to happen to Josh Jacobs, this is a running back that we have seen during a stretch be a 3-down guy before. We can see him catch passes. So I definitely love that selection that we made of Kenyan Drake in the 10th round. And then after we take Kenyan Drake, there is a run on running backs. So after Drake, you have David Johnson, James Conner, Nyheim Hines, Damian Harris, Chuba Hubbard, Devin Singletary, Jamal Williams. And it was just agonizing watching all of those running backs go because, I mean, we really wanted some of those other players that kind of profile that same way that we can start them at running back 2 if we need to, but we also want to have them in case there was an injury to occur in front of them. I mean, a perfect example of this would have been a James Conner that we could have brought in who possibly earns himself a goal line role in Arizona. And if anything were to happen to Chase Edmonds, all of a sudden he's a 3-down running back. So seeing those running backs go off the board definitely put us on tilt. And this is why I'm saying this, that we kind of made that mistake going to Hollywood Brown, thinking it was going to push the wide receivers up. And our league mates didn't agree. They said, Mason, you don't know what you're talking about. F off. We're going to continue to take running backs as we were planning before. So after the running back run, we were kind of put in a difficult spot where we decided, you know what? Let's just go out there. Let's just get Latavius Murray. He kind of fits that same mold where if you did have an Alvin Kamara injury, all of a sudden Latavius Murray is a running back 1. But at the same time, if we desperately need someone to throw in our running back 2 spot, we can put in Murray. And then in the next round, we decided to go with Rhamandre Stevenson as our 4th running back off the board, just going, okay, we are just praying that we get something falling to us at this point. We're praying that he just kind of lucks into touches. Then we get Rashad Penny in the 1306 going, okay, if anything happens to Chris Carson, who's missed multiple times before in terms of just multiple different injuries, I mean, we are going to get small stretches of where we can start Rashad Penny. Then we get Darrel Williams at the 1407 going, okay, Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down. We want the running back 1 and the most productive offense in the NFL. Then we get Evan Ingram at a value. But just recapping this real quick, I think another thing that we honestly made a mistake with, because I talk about this in our live streams every single night, where whenever I look at my drafts, I really want to highlight and I want to focus in on all the mistakes that I make, because I understand that really nobody else does that. If you're going to be completely honest, I'm sure that a lot of y'all watch people do mock drafts. A lot of y'all watch people do live drafts. And how many times do you think you ever hear someone go, okay, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Next time we are going to do this instead. Very rarely. But in my opinion, when you're reviewing your drafts and you're going through and you're trying to figure out how to become a better drafter, there is nothing better that you can possibly do than actually just go through and look at everything that you did that did not work out and just put it under a fine microscope. Because even if we made a slight error, if I bring that error to the surface and I go, okay, this was a slight error, this is how you avoid that going forward. That's how you become a better drafter. You don't become a better drafter by saying, hey, everybody, look at me. Look at this fantastic team that I took. No, by showing off what you didn't necessarily do well. While it may make you look stupid, I actually think at the end of the day, it's going to make us all significantly better drafters. So another thing that I kind of messed up here is once we take Rhamandre Stevenson, I think we're at a point in this draft where we don't necessarily need to continue to hammer in running backs. I don't know if I just felt the pressure of everybody yelling at me that we didn't have any running backs that they liked. And I went, okay, guys, please, back off. Because I think a problem is when we take Darrel Williams at the 1407, when there were other wide receivers available on the board that were intriguing, just say, like, if we go to the wide receivers after that, you have a John Brown, a Brashad Perriman, a Christian Kirk, an Amari Rodgers, a Nico Collins, a Jamison Crowder. I mean, you have a ton of wide receiver names. And I think we just more so got caught up in the fact that we needed more running backs compared to just taking a step back and going, okay, well, yes, we need more running backs, but at the end of the day, Darrel Williams ain't going to go for a couple of rounds, Mason. Don't panic here. I mean, another thing we could have done is instead of taking Darrel Williams at the 1407, possibly we go with a tight end with that pick. We get Gerald Everett or Robert Tonyan. And yes, we do really like the value that we get of Evan Ingram in the 5th round. But I think if we double up on tight ends there and then push down the running backs that we were targeting slightly further down the draft board, we're actually going to come away with a much better team at the end of the draft. And I think this was more so just me panicking after we did not get A.J. Dillon as our running back 2, and we decided to take Hollywood Brown there instead. So looking back on it, I think a mistake was after we made that one mistake, it kind of just dominated over to making more at the end of the draft. And that's something we're definitely going to work on going forward. I'm sure if y'all watched the live stream of me last night, whenever we got sniped with McCole Hardman, a player that I really wanted, I mean, I kind of just moved back. I had to put my head down a little bit. I'd go, oh my God, what just happened to us? I thought he was a guarantee to be ours. And yeah, that kind of throws you off the draft. So I definitely need to work on that, especially as we're live streaming as well, because there's just so much that is going on. But anyway, beyond this, we continue to hammer in those high upside running backs. We get a Darrington Evans. If anything happens to Derrick Henry, all of a sudden we can play him at running back 2. We get a Devonta Booker at the 1706. Anything happens to Saquon Barkley, who right now may not be healthy, well, we get Devonta Booker to start the season. And then Dwayne Eskridge in the 18th, just as a high upside wide receiver 8, going, okay, he's attached to Russell Wilson. Yes, he's a rookie with a very bad profile, but at the end of the day, we haven't seen him fail at the NFL level yet. He's going to be playing in one of the best passing offenses in the game. Might as well take a shot and see what happens. And then to end our draft, we do take Tua Tagovailoa and Eric Ebron. But yeah, I really hope that this was a good draft recap and I was able to kind of hammer in, I think, what we got correct. And I think what we actually got correct in this draft was at the very top of the draft, deciding to go wide receiver heavy, understanding that this format was one in which you wanted to load up on those wide receivers. And if you're actually going to try to make a balanced start in this league, I think you're probably going to put yourself at a disservice with where wide receivers are going to go later on. But my problem was just pushing the envelope a little too far. So that is the lesson we're learning, we are taking forward. And also another one, not to panic when it goes wrong. And yeah, let me know what y'all think of this draft. Let me know if y'all think this team is still one of the worst teams in the league. But right now, with how ADPs are changing, I mean, we have so much value on this squad that I'd be willing to double down on the money we have already put on it. But yeah, thank you again, my dudes, for watching this video. Of course, if you have any questions, if you have anything, please feel free to reach out to me on Patreon. And if you have yet to do so already, make a deposit on Underdog with promo code FLOCK, get our draft guide, and dominate the 2021 season. We've gotten a ton of new members joining the flock. Thank you, Grind for Gold, Devin, Bungified, Brian, Brody, Victor, Chris, Grant, Trevor, and David. Thank you, my dudes.